What you need in the building. I'm waiting for some transport to go down the road. Talk a little bit about boxing while we out here. Camera's a little smeared up. All right. Anyway, talk a little bit. I put out there that Crawford on Money Mayweather, right? And then I also put out another thing on social media. We had Floyd. Some people was offended over that. They was like pushing that because it's like black people versus black people, and that's not cool because we don't do Mexican versus Mexican. We do that. We do Mexican versus Mexican all the time. Julio Cesar Chavez versus Canelo Alvarez, etc. Listen, man, this boxing, and in boxing, you want to see some of the biggest fights, and even if the fights can't happen, sometimes you want to speculate about it, and it's about having fun. I told the guys, listen, man, can't be so uptight. Can't be so uptight about boxing, as if like it's a holy grail or something like that. It's not that. Fans supposed to have fun. A part of having fun is match them up. Let's see what happens, or what you think would happen. Because think of it, it's kind of like there's a fight coming up, and then you put money on a certain fighter or on another fighter, right? You put a bet, right? It's because you're predicting. You think you know who would win, and that's the fun of it, right? So I don't know why people up in arms about that. It's one thing if you start to put down a fighter, especially when you're telling lies and you're putting them down. It's another thing to say, hey, what would happen if we matched up this with this? This is the fights we want to see. And I'm sure a lot of fans would love to see an exhibition between Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather. Why not? Right? An exhibition, not a professional fight. I wouldn't want to see that. But an exhibition, sure. Why not? It's because it's the best. You're talking about the best of one era versus the best of another era. Why not? See them showcase their skills. See just, where this could have gone. If it was an actual fight, get some kind of idea. So, to me, I don't understand why some people get offended by that, and they're afraid to say, well, this fighter would beat that fighter. Truth is, it's hard to tell because both fighters are undefeated. Both fighters dominated their era and dominated their fights. One fighter has more skills than the other in the terms of the abilities that he has, right? One fighter naturally switch hits, and the other fighter, he stays in one stance. But that doesn't mean because the switch hitter is a switch hitter, that means he'll win, right? So when you think about it that way, you begin to realize that, hey, it's fun to think about. I always think about Floyd Mayweather versus Pernell Whitaker, for example. Pernell Whitaker was a defensive genius. Once Pernell Whitaker was going backwards in a circle, it was impossible to beat him. You couldn't touch him. If he was going forward, that's another story. Floyd was a more rounded boxer. He was not just slip punches and stuff, but he also block punches and stuff like that. And of course, a complete defensive fighter. But still, he got hit and going forward or backwards. It's an appetizing thing. A lot of people, it's a very, very popular one is Floyd Mayweather versus Sugar Ray Leonard. And a lot of people think that Sugar Ray Leonard would beat Floyd. I'm not one of those people, but a lot of people do. So, if you want to talk about fantasy fights, that's part of boxing, fantasy fights. Maybe fights that will never happen, but it's just something to expand your imagination. Whether people have a consensus or not doesn't really matter, because ultimately in the end, it's the actual fights that will actually prove it. A lot of people had a consensus that Canelo Alvarez was going to beat Terence Crawford. I was wrong, right? So consensus doesn't mean anything. It's the actual fight. And sometimes, like I assumed that, for example, Jermell Charlo would beat Canelo Alvarez, right? That didn't happen. What happened? Instead, Canelo beat Jermell Charlo. And he didn't even engage much. Once he felt the power of Canelo, he was done, right? So I'm just saying that in boxing, you can't really tell. You have to actually match them up. But the fun of it is trying to predict who would win. That's the fun of the thing. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's what I wanted to put out there. And if you have any other comments, any other suggestions, any other things you want to put out there, let me know. I'm WattUNeed. Have a good day. Bless.